Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Tonsoni, teacher at Delphi High School. I'm along with Ty Schuler, our math teacher at Delphi High School, and Daniel Jakes, one of our members of our Delphi Bracketology Sports Club. We will be talking tonight on this blast about the bowl games coming up and introducing my new podcast studio. Sorry for you Purdue Boilermaker fans, but IU is going to the Pinstripe Bowl by defeating the Boilers 6-6. A 6-6 record for the Hoosiers, and we're really happy that they are going to be going bowling. So good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday night. I'm getting ahead of myself. Are you ready to talk about football?
Wednesday.
Sure, let's do it.
Yep.
Okay, let's get started off with the Final Four college football playoff. Four have made it with the chance to win the national championship. They're going to be playing in the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. So let's start first with the number one team in the land, Clemson, playing the number 4 team, Oklahoma, in the Orange Bowl. Daniel, your take on Clemson versus Oklahoma?
It's a kind of a rivalry thing here, or revenge factor, I should say. Clemson destroyed Oklahoma a couple years ago in the bowl game, 40-6, and they didn't have Baker Mayfield at the time. 2 high-scoring offenses. Oklahoma, they didn't play last week due to their outright Big 12 title against Oklahoma State a couple weeks ago. They should be fresh, although both teams should be fresh by then. But 2 high-powered offenses, it's going to be a bang-bang, shoot-'em type of game, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Ty, what do you think?
I think it's going to be an excellent matchup. I mean, like Daniel said, the offenses, both of them are great through the air, on the ground. I mean, it may come down to who wins the trenches. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think you're going to have momentum swinging maybe every quarter, maybe every half a quarter. The momentum is going to change, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. I mean, you may be able to go out on the limb and say, this may actually be the national title game because the winner of this game may actually beat the other 2.
You know, that's interesting because of the offenses. You have, when we get to the other game, Alabama, Michigan State, a kind of a knockdown, drag-out type of affair. But this one's going to be fun. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I wonder, Clemson has played I don't know if they did their best down the stretch. You know, they didn't look all that impressive against North Carolina, although they scored some points. They had some close ones, and I'm not sold on the ACC schedule. I think Notre Dame was their toughest, and that was a big win, but it was at home in a monsoon. I think Oklahoma, despite losing to Texas, has basically been in a playoff the last 4 weeks when they had to play Baylor and they had to beat some teams down the stretch in the Big 12. My concern about Oklahoma is defense in the Big 12. It's kind of like Indiana defense. There is none, right? They just go up and down, throw the passes, and Clemson might be able to outscore Oklahoma. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure I'm ready to pick a game quite yet, but yeah, this one is going to be worth the money. I think it's a 4 o'clock start, and I think we're ready to go. So now let's move on to the other semifinal. Let's go Alabama versus Michigan State. Daniel, what do you think?
These are 2 sound defensive teams. They both rely on the run. They don't really look for the explosive play other than a 65-yard run by Derrick Henry or L.J. Scott breaking off to the side. The past couple years, Alabama's really only been beat by spread offenses. And, I mean, I think this favors the Tide. Their run, Michigan State's playing into their hands. Alabama's sound that they're at least 3 deep in every position on defense. And it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a gritty game. They destroyed Florida. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to be one of the best defenses in the SEC this year. And Derrick Henry ran for 189 yards, I believe. Just look for much of the same from the Tide. I think the key for Michigan State is to get big plays from their wide receivers. They can't rely on a freshman LJ Scott to run all day long against the Tide defense.
I'm going to. I think Connor Cook has to win this game for Michigan State. I don't think they can just slug it and go 3 yards in a cloud of dust and have a game like they did against Iowa. I don't see them going on a 22-play drive like they did against Iowa. I do agree with Daniel. I think this plays in the hands of Alabama in the toughness factor, and so I think this is going to be tough. I'm going to be rooting for Michigan State as a Big Ten fan. But Ty, what's your take on Alabama, Michigan?
Well, I agree. I think this is going to be a tough game for Michigan State to win, just because they haven't spread it out very much this year. It's been a pound it. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball every time, every chance we get. But I think they're going to have to let Connor Cook throw the ball. They're going to have to spread this Alabama defense out and, maybe get some isolation on one-on-one and hopefully, some maybe big plays of 15, 20 yards down the field they can connect on. But, if they're planning on running the Michigan State style of football and they're going to pound it out against, the Alabama defense, which is very, very good in stopping the run, it's going to be a long night for the Spartans. They're going to have to bring a different style of game plan than I think what they're used to, and that's going to favor Alabama because Alabama can play their normal style of defense, which is very aggressive, packing guys in the box and stopping the run.
So let's go over some initial picks. I'll start it off. I think it's going to be Alabama into Cotton Bowl. That starts at 8 o'clock on New Year's Eve. And I'm going to go with Clemson because everyone's on the Oklahoma bandwagon that they're probably the number one team right now. I wouldn't Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma, Alabama would be a wonderful national championship. I think that game's going to be played on January 11th. So my pick is Clemson, Alabama. And then we'll come back with the championship round maybe in a different discussion. But those are my picks for those two games. Daniel.
I like the Sooners against Clemson. I think they're going to be too much for the Tigers. And I like Alabama against Sparty.
Ty.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think Alabama's going to beat Michigan State. I really hate saying this as being a Big Ten type of guy. But I think Alabama's going to take care of that. And in the other one, I think I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I'm going to go with Jake's on this. I think they're just explosive offense. They're used to scoring a lot of points throughout the year. They're going to find ways to get points on the board. They've done it through the entire Big 12 season. And I just don't think that Clemson's going to have the defense to stay up with them.
Okay, there you have it. Our initial thoughts on the Orange Bowl and Cotton Bowl, which are part of the college football playoff semifinals. The committee who selected the Final Four also had a hand in some 4 other bowl games for a championship teams and the top-rated teams, and there's been some superior matchups in some of these games. We will start off first with the December 31st matchup of Houston versus Florida State. Ty, what do you know about Houston versus Florida State? What are you thinking about that matchup?
Well, I think Houston has a great team this year. I mean, they've really come alive, and they beat some teams down the stretch to kind of put them in this position where they're at. Florida State is another team that I think is pretty decent. They have a great passing game, which I think is going to be trouble for Houston to contain that. I don't think the secondary of the Houston defense is the absolute best. But I think it's going to end up being a good game. I think that the committee, when they picked this, they picked 2 good teams. I think are going to draw a really good crowd, and I think it's in a great setting, and I think it's just going to be a great football game.
Yeah, I think sometimes people might see this game. It's noon on December 31st. They're getting ready for their New Year's parties and everything, and look at it as not a marquee matchup. But I think they underestimate Houston and the style of ball that is played down there. I believe it's a former Ohio State head coach, right?
Tom Herman.
Yeah, who is coaching down there, and he's done a nice job. And there were some comments about how he can recruit in Texas, a big football state. So they take their football serious down there, and I would like to see Houston beat Florida State just because I'm not a Florida State fan. Jimbo Fisher and some of the stuff that's gone on down there, I understand that I don't know everything, but it just kind of looks kind of shaky with the quarterback situation last year and running back some of the off-field stuff. So Houston State is going to be good. Any thoughts on on who you like or who you're or what you think about the Peach Bowl?
Sorry, what?
Go ahead, Peach
You're
Bowl.
cutting in and out.
Peach Bowl.
Houston,
Florida State.
Tom Herman, a former Ohio State offensive coordinator a couple years ago. He's done a great job with that program. 11-1 this year, I believe. Their only loss to UConn on an unlucky pick six by Greg Ward towards the end of the game, I think. Houston's offense, they're up tempo. They like to score a lot of points. Their defense can be shaky at times, but I mean, they'll step up to the plate against a sound offensive team. I think Florida State relies too much on Dalvin Cook to run the ball. They expect too many big plays out of him, I think, and I like the Cougars in this matchup.
Okay. Moving on to some other matchups. These, I believe, are all on January 1st after the New Year's celebration. And we'll start with the Sugar Bowl, which is the last game, I believe, of the night. That's Oklahoma State versus Mississippi State. Ty, what do you think of that matchup?
I think that's going to be a great rival with Big Ten and SEC, or Big 12 and SEC. I'm sorry, but I think it's going to be a nice game. They met in the Cotton Bowl a few years ago, so it's going to be a little bit more of a rivalry game for them. I think just kind of that cross conference rivalry. But again, Oklahoma State, they play in the Big 12. They have an explosive offense, and Ole Miss up and down this year. Throughout the SEC. Now SEC is a good conference. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to have a little bit of problem containing that Oklahoma State offense, just as explosive it is. They have weapons all over the place. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. And, they were right there for the Big 12 title. So, just a couple of plays goes their way, and we may be talking about them in one of the top three spots. But, I think it's going to be a very, very good game. I think them playing on January 1st is good for them. It's going to be an exciting matchup. It's going to, like I said, it's going to be a rivalry game. And to be honest with you, I really like Oklahoma State in this one.
Did I misspeak? I know it's Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Did I call them Mississippi State earlier?
Yeah,
I did. I think I did. I had it marked wrong on my paper. I think it's Oklahoma State versus Ole Miss. So sorry.
Ole Miss, yeah, that's all right.
That was a misstatement there. So Oklahoma State versus Ole Miss. Yeah, I think Ole Miss in this one. Oklahoma State might something because they lost down the stretch with the chance at one point we were talking about them possibly making the Final Four. So Daniel, what do you think of the Sugar Bowl?
Ole Miss, they have a lot of talent in the wide receiver corps. Laquan Treadwell, he missed the end of the stretch last year with that broken ankle. He's made an impressive comeback this year, to say the least. Chad Kelly, I believe that's his first name. He's a tough quarterback. I mean, he plays with a lot of emotion. I think it's going to be a great game. They have two good defenses and two solid offenses to go. Mason Rudolph, who knows if he'll be playing by then. He missed their game against Oklahoma. I don't know what was wrong with him, but let's hope he plays because, I mean, who doesn't want to see the best players play?
Yeah. And Ole Miss is that 4th down and 25 play in overtime versus Arkansas playing for the SEC championship, and then the Final Four and all of that could be a whole lot different. So maybe they play with a little chip on your shoulder. I think a lot of these bowl games come down to who decides to show up. Some teams are disappointed. Maybe they're not in the Final Four. Maybe they're not happy with where they're placed. Other teams look at it as one last message to send. So interesting. Let's go to the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all at 5 o'clock. Would be Iowa from the Big Ten versus Stanford. I got that one right? I messed up the Ole Miss Oklahoma State one, but Iowa versus Stanford. I'll start out here. I think this is a great game. I'm really impressed with Stanford, and their quarterback and running back. The running back's up for the Heisman. He's the final three. The name's escaping me right now. McCaffrey or
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey. I just think he's solid. I think Henry might win the Heisman, but McCaffrey and then Hogan, the quarterback. I think Iowa's had a great year, and I think they got a lot of respect in how they lost the Big Ten championship. I mean, it took a monster dip where they're in the Final Four. I think they proved they were for real despite somewhat questionable schedule. But I think Stanford in here might be the better team and playing better as of late. Ty, Iowa, Stanford.
I think so. I think Stanford's really come on here at the end of the year and put forth a good thing with McCaffrey, and I just don't see how Iowa's secondary is going to stop McCaffrey from building up. I mean, every time he's on the field, he is a massive weapon for that Stanford offense, and I just don't see them stopping it. It's a shame because Iowa's had one heck of a year. I mean, they lost the Big Ten championship by inches. There on the goal line. I mean, I think they're going to be one that's going to go into this game a little disappointed, and I think that's what's going to keep them back because they know what could have been just with a little bit more of a defensive stop. But I really do like Stanford here. They played extremely well in the Pac-12 championship game. They beat a great team in UCLA, and so I think they're playing well right now, and I think they're going to get the Rose Bowl win.
Daniel, your take?
All eyes have been on Christian McCaffrey for the Cardinals, but Kevin Hogan, I mean, he's not much of a flashy player, but he's fundamentally sound. He makes the smart play. I mean, the spotlight's on Christian McCaffrey for a reason. He broke the NCAA all-purpose yard record, and I mean, that's deservedly so. But Kevin Hogan, he led the Cardinal on that 24-yard play sequence to set up the field goal for the Cardinal against Notre Dame. I think Iowa, they'll be ready to play, but it's just how do they defend Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, I think he's the secret. And I think you're absolutely right on that. I like the way both these teams play. I'm looking forward. I always look forward to the Rose Bowl. I think it's one of the best things on New Year's, if it's cold and snowy here, to go out and see the sun shining and the hundreds of thousands of people there all clad in their school colors. But I like these styles of these two teams. And nothing wrong with the Big 12 spread offense scoring 55 points, because that has an appeal as well. But this is traditional football in the Rose Bowl this year. And then, Daniel, we'll start out with you, which I think might be the best bowl game matchup, is the Fiesta Bowl, played at, I believe, noon on New Year's Day. It is the Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame versus your Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll lead off with you, Daniel, on your thoughts on the Fiesta Bowl matchup.
Yeah, I was on Twitter most of that Sunday for the final selection, and I saw a lot of disappointment from the Ohio State players' Twitter accounts. Most of them were just saying how they were on the outside looking in and how they only have one more game to prep for now and show them that they're wrong for not putting them in. And, I mean, I think they come out with fire. I think they're pissed for not getting in. I know that they don't think they should have lost to Michigan State. And but all credit aside, Notre Dame's a solid team. They deserve to be in this game just as much as we do. They lost to Stanford on a last-second field goal. It's going to be a great game to watch.
I think it's going to be fantastic, Daniel.
I think in the end, Ohio State's defense gets more stops than Notre Dame's, and we score a couple more touchdowns than them. But it's going to be a great game to watch. It's going to be a close game. I wouldn't be surprised if it went into overtime, honestly. It's going to be a tremendous game to watch.
I think it goes two ways. I think it's either going to be a close game or it's going to be an Ohio State blowout. I just think Ohio State is very talented. I think they ran into a buzzsaw in Michigan State where, the play calling was somewhat suspect. The weather was kind of shaky. And they came out and showed when they can focus in and on their play and use their athletic ability, what they did to Michigan. And Notre Dame is talented, and Notre Dame has overcome a ton of injuries. They're to be respected. I think they'll bring a good brand of football, but I think it's either going to be closer. I think it might be reminiscent of one of the last times they met, I think, in the Fiesta Bowl when Ohio State just ran Notre Dame off the field, right, with the athleticism. Yeah. So I think Ohio State wins this one, and I'm rooting for a close game because I think this might be the best bowl matchup of the season. Ty, your thoughts on Fiesta Bowl, Notre Dame versus Ohio State?
Well, first of all, as being a Purdue fan, these are two teams I absolutely hate. So pick this is going to be a struggle. But I just think, Notre Dame's come over a lot this year, and they are an excellent football team. They played through injury. They played through everything that you could about imagine. But I think at the end, Ohio State, quarterback Ezekiel Elliott, their running game, I just don't think that Notre Dame can stop that. I think Ohio State has to keep it on the ground. They got to run it. They got to make a short game of it. And time of possession is going to be key here. I think if Ohio State can win the time of possession and, put together 5-6 yard drives on their run offense, on the rushing, I think they're going to run away with this. But again, I do agree with you, Brian. It's either going to be a close game or I do believe it's going to be an Ohio State blowout. But this is going to be an excellent football game to watch. The fans are going to be into it. I mean, these schools are only, about 4 hours apart? I mean, it's a big rivalry, and I think it's going to be an excellent game to watch, but I think Ohio State's going to win it at the end.
I mean, we have some excellent watching. The New Year's Eve, you got the Final Four games at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Stay up and have some grape juice or whatever at midnight and then go to bed. So you get up and have some breakfast, watch the parades, and then all of a sudden at noon it's Notre Dame, Ohio State, then it's Iowa, Stanford, and then you're on to Oklahoma State, Ole Miss. Make sure I get that right this time. I think that's just some quality football. So that's our discussion on the Final Four.
I think
college football playoff. Go ahead.
I think one thing that we're forgetting, too, last time Notre Dame was really put in the national spotlight for a bowl game, they got destroyed by Alabama. I think that was when A.J. McCarron was a sophomore. I think Notre Dame is still kind of embarrassed about that. That was a blowout, and, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with a little fire themselves for not getting into the playoff.
Yeah, and I think, again, it goes back to who's motivated in these bowl games. I think the more motivated team, a lot of these games are evenly matched. I don't think you see a huge – maybe there's one out west, Nebraska, UCLA, with some of these 5-7 teams getting in. But, hey, that's our discussion on the committee bowls, there are 6 bowls. And now let's turn a little bit to some of these others. We have a record 40 bowl games, I believe, 42 if you count all of the championship games. And let's just throw out a couple games that we might be interested in watching on some of these off times. This Saturday, the 19th, bowl games start. They follow pretty much regularly, almost every day except Christmas, throughout January 2nd. So I'm going to throw out mine. Obviously, it's the Pinstripe Bowl. It's good to be back in a bowl game for the Indiana Hoosiers that I follow. It'll be interesting versus Duke. I think this will be a 75-72 game because both teams do not play a whole lot of defense. But I'm looking forward to that one. The other one that has my interest, you got some good matchups. I like Northwestern and I like Tennessee. I just think that's going to be a good matchup. I think that's a New Year's Day matchup too. That's a bowl that I'm kind of interested in watching as well. Ty, what game or two that's not on the marquee 6 games that you think you might tune into?
Well, I tell you what, this is kind of a weird one. It's the Raycom Media Bowl on the 19th, just because Appalachian State is in there. They weren't always – they were a Division IIA school. But a few years ago, they got a great program. They went into Michigan and beat Michigan. I mean, we can't forget that. So I think it's a really treat for what that program has done. And they put together a 10-2 record this year. And I mean, they're a quality program, and for them to come in, and be Division I, get a play in a bowl, against Ohio. I think it's going to be interesting. It might be on my clicker. Let's tune in. See how they do. I think they're going to be out to prove something, that they deserve to be here. And I think that's going to make a great bowl atmosphere. Some of these, some of these schools that don't get to go to a bowl every year, and I mean, they're going to be out to prove something. They're going to prove they're on a national stage. It may not have millions of people watching, but they're going to have people watching nonetheless, and they're going to be out to support their program, promote their school. And I think it's just going to be a great opportunity for both Appalachian State and Ohio.
All right. You got any others that you're looking for besides the Camellia Bowl?
The Camellia Bowl. I don't know. I'd have to look through. I think, just kind of looking through here, I think another one in Houston, between Texas Tech and LSU.
Yeah.
I think that could turn into being a really a great bowl game to watch.
That running back from LSU is worth watching.
Yes, you're exactly
right.
Yeah. I mean, LSU brings a great team in there. And Texas Tech, they play in the Big 12. They score lots of points, week in and week out. They're in the 50s and 60s. So I think between LSU's defense, Texas Tech offense, I think that's going to be a great matchup across the board to watch. And maybe a low scoring game there, maybe not. LSU's offense could come alive and really get some big plays, and it could be a shootout. But Texas Tech basically playing at home. That one's played in Houston on the 29th. It's even called the Texas Bowl. So, I mean, it's going to have a lot of home fans there, and I think it's close for both teams. The atmosphere is going to be excellent for that bowl game.
Daniel, give me a couple games that aren't on the marquee list that you might be looking forward to watching.
I'm looking forward to watching Virginia Tech and Tulsa. Frank Beamer's last game as a Hokie. I'm just really interested in seeing him going out with a win. They're playing a solid Tulsa team. What Frank Beamer's done to the Virginia Tech program, not many people can say that they've done that to a Division I college football program and have left the legacy that he has.
Do you know, Daniel, sorry to interrupt, but in 1993, my brother-in-law played for Indiana in one of their last bowl games until 2007 against Frank Beamer and Virginia Tech, and they scored like 2 touchdowns off special teams at the end of the first half to blow out my Indiana Hoosiers in the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. That was quite the drive. Not making it out to New York City the day after Christmas, unfortunately. I have to watch in my man cave. But Virginia Tech is a good program. Jim Beamer, just excellent. Frank Beamer is an excellent head coach. Jim Beamer, that's probably what New Year's Eve, but we won't talk about that. What else, Daniel?
I don't know what bowl game it is, but the game that Southern Miss is in. They're coming in 2013. They came off a 1-win season. The year before that, they didn't have a win. And what that head coach has done with that program, they went 9-4 this year. I think it's incredible what some of these coaches are doing to these middle-level college football teams. And to see them getting these high-end profile jobs, the Bowling Green coach going to Syracuse, the Toledo coach going to Iowa State, I think what they're doing to these programs and putting them in these positions, I think it's incredible just to see them succeed, get to these bowl games. I just think it's awesome to see these.
It's the Heart of Dallas Bowl, Miss versus Washington, Saturday, December 26th at 2:20. That's a good matchup, yeah. I think. A couple of teams.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Daniel's absolutely right. And when my brother-in-law played and he went to 3 bowl games, it is a reward for a long season, and then you have weightlifting in the winter, and you have spring football, and then you have the fall camps and your season. It is such a big event for all of the players and coaches. And it's also a time for these programs to practice some of their younger guys for 2 or 3 more weeks getting ready for the next year. It is a huge reward for not only up-and-coming coaches, but programs as well. I have to agree, Daniel. Hard. Any other games that you're looking forward to watching?
None that I can think of.
I'm kind of intrigued about USC and Wisconsin in the Holiday Bowl. Baylor. I think. Let me check the schedule up here. Baylor is playing North Carolina Baylor, and I think there'll be some points scored if Baylor gets a quarterback back. I think there might be 4 quarterbacks or something here recently. So that'll do it for our show tonight. Go ahead, Daniel. Last comment.
Oregon and TCU. That'll be a shootout too. Yeah.
I thought they did a great job matching up the games this year. From all the way down from your Camellia Bowl, Ty. There's a lot of games that are worth watching. Sometimes you turn on a game but I think there's some great matchups, and as Daniel said, some intriguing coaches and great programs. So, a holiday season is going to be fun if you're a college football fan. So, I want to thank Ty Schuler and Daniel Jakes for joining me tonight in some bowl discussion for Delphi Bracketology. I will say that we will probably videotape a show and go and talk again with some updates next week. So look for that to be out on our YouTube channel. We don't have one, but it's mine. So I will also say that we are transitioning to basketball, and I put together a little RPI work today and kind of came up with a list of teams you Purdue fans will enjoy. I think Purdue's a 2 seed right now if the season should end. Daniel, our 2 teams are either the last one in or on the first 19 out list from the Hoosiers and Ohio State from
probably
the preseason basketball.
Oh my!
And send us your questions. Join. Watch the tape. So, gentlemen, thank you. Take care of yourself, Daniel. Get well. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.